Welcome to LT Outdoors. The sun is coming up, the bobber's going down. Fish are all a-biting and jumping all around. Let's hook up the boat, come on, let's go. It's time for LT Outdoors. I'm talking LT Outdoors. You never know where the adventures might go. Could be hunting, fishing, or metal detecting. Might even do a little foraging too. I'm talking LT Outdoors. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of LT Outdoors. In this little how-to, I'm going to show you how I find fish using the app called Navionics. It's an app that I've been using now for a few years, and I'll tell you what, for those of you that want to know how I find fish on lakes that I've never fished before, Navionics is the ticket. I find a lot of my lakes, a lot of my little spots using Navionics. It's perfect for depth charts and that. Other than that, you know, if you need to find out what species of fish are in each lake, that's going to be a different video. I have a different mapping system for that. But as far as Navionics, that's how I find what spots I'm going to start with when I get out on the ice or in my boat. So I hope you guys enjoy this little segment. Let me know what you think. And if you mess around with Navionics, let me know how you like it. Okay, guys, I just want to show you real quick. I'm talking all the time about that app called Navionics. That right there is the button for it. I'm going to click on that. Going to take a second here to load. Now, as you can see, when this loads up, okay, right now we're looking at, this is actually part of the Great Lakes. So I'm just going to go and randomly pick a lake. Let's go check Hubbard out. Okay, now the best part about this, about Navionics, is the fact that it's got such detailed depth charts. As you can see, the further you zoom in on your depth chart, the more detailed it's going to get as far as the depth changes. Now, when you go to a new lake, people are always asking me, you know, how do you know where to go when you're going to these places that you've never fished before? And that's where a lot of people get scared when they're, you know, a lot of people don't really want to feather out and try new areas. And it's because, you know, they feel secure on the little lakes that they fish, and they're kind of afraid to venture out onto these big, especially these big bodies of water. But Navionics really helps. When I look at a lake this big, okay, look at this. This is a huge lake, all right? Yeah, you see I've got a couple spots marked, but you look at a lake this big, and I'm going to just go here on the south end because there's some good fishing down here too. Neat thing is it shows you where the boat launch is. So I know right where I'm going to be walking out from, or taking a quad, preferably a quad if I had one. Now, what I try to do, I always look for areas where there's a bit of a change in depth, or nice little points like this, just random depth changes. Like I really like how there's a bit of a point right there. I mean, this is all kind of a cool point. And what I would do in situations like this, you know, let's say if I want to set up here, I'd probably set my shanty right here, and then I would run a tip up somewhere out this way and a tip up somewhere out this way. Because what I really like, you look out here and you've got a massive depth change, okay? And that's usually a good spot, especially if you're looking for walleyes. They really hone in on these steep drops. Hubbard is definitely known for these. There's, well, as you can see, it's basically one big line here that goes along. But if you set up around that steep drop, that's a good place to start. Now Hubbard, it's a big lake. That'd be a tough one to fish. As you can see, I enjoy fishing, you know, East Bay. It's shallower. But same thing, when I go out there, I like these flats. I like to find a spot where there's a big flat, and that's where I like to set up, anywhere there's a nice flat. Okay, now I'm going to go pick a different lake. All right, let's go with North Lake here. North Lake is a small lake in Glenny. It's not really all that small. It's kind of a longer lake, but as you can see on North Lake, same thing. You've got, it's a real deep lake, but the depth changes are pretty dramatic. I mean, you go from, 10 feet here, you've got a nice 20-foot flat here, 37, 40 foot deep. Now, if I were to go out on this lake, I would probably focus on this 20 foot flat. I would pick a nice wide flat, because usually those fish are going to be hanging around on those flats or on the steep drop-offs. That's what you call a break. The fish like to hang out on those breaks. Now you've got, like right there, boom, 81 feet deep, right? That's super deep, but there's really not much going on right there. It's like a big bowl. You could try fishing that. If I were to fish that, I wouldn't go right in the middle of it. I'd probably hang out in this 20 to 30 foot deep. The fish don't, you might think, oh yeah, 80 feet deep, there's got to be a lot of fish, but believe it or not, a lot of those fish don't like to go into that super deep water. I would probably focus on this 20 foot, and honestly, see how it goes. You got 30 foot, 20 foot, boom, 15 feet, 20 foot, 30 foot, 40 foot. This is a nice, almost like a sandbar, but it's not real shallow. 15 foot's a good depth for fishing. Honestly, I would probably focus on that right there, and I would set a tip up out in the 30 and a tip up somewhere out in this 30, because you're covering both sides of these holes. To me, that's a good spot. See, like I said, I'm just picking random lakes here. I've never ice fished North Lake. I fished it in the summer a couple times, but yeah, nothing special. Of course, there are some lakes. This one in particular, everybody has a hard time on this lake. This is Tawas Lake, okay? Now, this lake is very difficult to fish. Main reason? It's super shallow. Look at that, 1, 2, 3 foot. I mean, it's a really shallow lake. I zoom in and I'm getting a little more depth, 4 or 5. But basically, the deepest you're going to find out here is around 5 foot deep. Now, on lakes like this, as you can see when I zoom in, it's kind of cool. You can see the sky images of, weed beds, points. See, that's what I would focus on. On small, shallow lakes like this, I'd take advantage of the satellite feature, and I would look for little pockets in the weeds, some sort of weird structure on the bottom. I mean, like this right here, look at that. That's a neat little structure. It might be just a weed bed, but I would get, somewhere near that, probably right in this 2 to 4 feet. Between these two shallow spots, that's probably a hot spot. I've never fished there, but I bet it's good. And yeah, just like that, guys. That's how I find my spots. There's really nothing to it. Navionics is definitely where it's at. As you can see, it gives you, it's got really good map charts too of Lake Huron, all the Great Lakes. Other states too. It's not just Michigan. You can go to any other state. And Navionics is good for that too. And as you can see, it doesn't show every map, but it does have most of them. And they're not all extremely detailed. As you can see here, Sand Lake doesn't have crazy depth change details or anything, but it does tell you, submergent weeds, floating vegetation, sand. I mean, it at least gives you some idea of what's going on here. And it gives you nice little holes. Some of these lakes, you focus on the holes if they're not a super deep lake. But, yep, there's not much to it, guys. Give Navionics a try. Let me know what you think, because it's really the ticket to finding some great fishing spots. Okay, guys, the next thing I want to show you here it's really simple to do. If you're out on a lake, okay, I'm just choosing a random lake here. This is Loon Lake over in Hale. Super deep lake. But, see, it's nice. It shows you here. Boom, there's some walleye right there, right? All right, let's say we're sitting right there where it says there's walleye. When we're out there, it's going to show, there's going to be a little marker showing that that's where you're at. But you just click on the spot that you're at, and then boom, you can click on marker. You can click on pin. Or you can actually choose an icon for any of these, which I think is a really neat feature. Let's say, we're catching fish, right? Or, there could be rocks. It's really neat how you can do any of these things, though. But You know, if you find a wreckage, you can mark it, rocks, any of these fish, but I'm just going to mark a fish. Okay, let's say we just caught a walleye. Boom. I'm going to mark walleye and save. Okay, I've got the walleye marked there. Now that's going to show our little marked spot. And what's neat about that is we can actually, it's so accurate. You can walk, you know, the next time I go out to that lake, I'll be able to walk right to that spot. No problem. I mean, I'll be able to, you know, it gets you right on it. I've walked out before I had a spot marked on Grand Lake. I was able to walk right out and literally find my old holes from like 2 weeks prior. Yeah, and see right now we're on marker, we're on selected location. Just because I'm picking a spot, but normally it's your GPS location is what it's going to choose because it follows you out on the lake. And there's things you can add on here, buoys, rock, beacons. There's all kinds of stuff you can add. But as you can see, it's really easy to add a location. One more thing I want to show you guys that is something you have to know. Now, in the menu here, so when you first start using Navionics, it doesn't use feet. You have to kind of change it because it'll be set up differently. It'll be set up, I think, for meters. So you want to go in here and make sure that it is set up for feet, obviously, unless you're in a different country where you're not using feet. But right now I've got it set up for feet. Usually it's set up on meters, okay? So I'm just gonna show you here. Normally, you know, if you start using this app, the first thing you're gonna see is it's gonna look like the footage is off on your lakes. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, this don't seem right. Why is the depths all wrong? It's gonna be like that because it's set for meters. So you just click on that M under map options, change it over to feet, and that's all there is to it, okay? And then you'll be back to where you need to be, to where everything will be set for feet. That's something you really got to know. But there's all kinds of different options for this, all kinds of stuff you can do. I keep mine on nautical chart. You can also change it to sonar chart, government charts. I also use the satellite overlay. I prefer satellite because obviously I can see the satellite imagery of, you know, anything, weed beds, and anything that might be down near the bottom. You can also take photos when you're out boating. You can click on that camera and you can actually take a picture of a fish or, you know, something that you see out there in the water. You can take a picture of it and that'll save as you can save it as your waypoint. So that's also a neat option. But yeah, Navionics is the way to go. There's all kinds of cool stuff with this mapping. It's just a great app. Be sure to hit that subscribe button.